All right. Welcome to part 2 of the Master Arena Armored Core PS1 game. I'm once again joined by From Chang.
Hello.
Got Zealous.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Great to be here.
And of course, your person attempting to play this on an emulator using Joy to Key on an Xbox controller with input delay and lag. Cleric here. That's me front-loading all my excuses of why if I look like I'm playing terribly. That's probably why.
Man.
But yeah, legitimately, those things are happening. But you know what? All I have left to do is an EX Arena, and I've beaten this game effectively. So, if you haven't seen Part 1, I'll put a link up in the description. I recommend you see it. Trust me, the payoff at the end is hysterical. As many people have known through this game, have a major issue, with Nine Ball Seraph, the end of the spoilers, end of the story missions. And yeah, I had problems too. I went to old tried and true method I used back in Another Age, and sure enough, it worked out well. Maybe look like everything I was having a hard time with seemed silly. So we're going to the EX arena here. Going to get started. Of course, I have my heavy biped set up. Do either the humanoid leg ones, because after this, I'm going to have to start switching up my leg types.
Now, coming into this, we initially thought, at least the way I was remembering EX Arena, was that it was just for opponents only, right? So we were doing a quick check, and it's like, oh man, yeah, that's right. You actually have to change your leg type too to go through it. I mean, it's a cool way to get you exposed to the other leg types. If you hadn't been using those already, let's say maybe you stuck with just one or two types, that's fun. Or it can be an exercise in pure pain. I know I get the jitters if I have to play anything other than a quad. Oh.
So I'm going to go back to heavy arms here to get my AC back where I was using it before. And just kind of go about it like, hey, here we go. Trying to remember what
And just a heads up for most people who aren't familiar, with Armored Core Master Arena, it's got two discs, so you obviously have the first disc, which is the story, and then the second disc, which is basically the entire arena. And these arenas obviously have the leg types, but there's also a few different kinds as well. I think there's some for the From Software employees, for ACs that were in some magazines, and it looks like some actual tournament ACs too.
Mm-hmm.
get to feel the pain.
That's sort of one of the things that's a shame though about the Japanese side is they did a lot of stuff like this over the years, but unfortunately, most of that information is lost to time because it's really hard now to find any of these magazines, and some of them is not too bad, but it's like most of this information is pretty much just gone.
Yeah, we talk about some of the promotional work and stuff like that being lost. I mean, the most you can find in some of this stuff record-wise is, gosh, you might be able to go and find some of the original artworks and stuff like that, which AC was always pretty true to. One thing I liked the whole concept of paper to reality thing with Armored Core games really existed, especially what you saw on Page become reality. The intro ACs we've seen in several games, the Blue Zeo from AC2, right? The White Glint from AC 4A. Very much. Those came right off the paper press, right into the game, which is really cool. So,
Going classic Carousel and Moonlight here.
Hey, can't beat it right. Can't beat it right.
Start there. We'll make some adjustments as needed. Zweit. The setup emphasizes defense. It limits its offensive capability, but offers greater mobility. There's not that much defense against Kurosawa.
No.
If
I remember correctly,
go ahead.
This particular AC was featured in the Project Phantasma intro and cover art.
I believe so too.
Yes, it was.
So,
it was.
I gotta make a comment here. So I got called out in the comments of my last video for
About what?
For cheesing it up in the parking lot.
Oh.
So, as I may mention, as you heard at the beginning of the video here, I am super hampered on these controls trying to get to play it here. I am playing it via emulator. I do own a copy and a PS1, so I could, bust out like, game capture and everything else, but I just don't want to go through that level of effort for it to have not as good a graphics capture and everything else. So it's a little bit hampered, but it's okay. We'll survive. I understand it seems a little cheap going parking lot, but why make your job harder than you have to? I'm not fancy. I like to blow stuff up. I'm big and heavy. I move slow, and I like to shoot big damage. So I'm gonna pick an arena that's suitable to my playstyle. Sorry.
I mean, Claire, you could always, give the 1997 / early 2000 experience. Get the CRTV and hold your phone up to it, and
there you go. Yeah, let's do that capture.
That's the real cap.
Yeah.
It's look at that. It's funny as I say that. That's almost literally what I did the last time I captured anything of myself playing AC.
Well, that was anticlimactic.
Oh, okay.
Actually, he was kind of dodging that with the up and down, but
Yep.
not really. Well,
then.
I wasn't expecting the AI just to keep boosting against the wall.
It's just one of their classics. You got some that just stay there, go in a straight line, or just pick a spot and stay there.
They shouldn't have given me a parking lot then. Oh, I honestly cannot wait. It is, as long as it's been since I played, AC1, especially MOA, it hasn't been as long since I played the AC2 games. And I am genuinely excited to start playing some of the AC2 games. Because the huge graphics update, and just the sheer, your Zealous is here, personal favorite, Overboost.
Woo! Let's go.
Need for Speed.
Yep.
You know what? I did have a quick question though.
Yeah.
And I don't believe I've asked you guys this before, but between AC 1 or 2, what would you say for just those particular areas, which would you say more people preferred?
Oh, AC2 hands down. AC2, generally speaking, was very well received and very well loved, and for good reason. I mean, we can't. Look at these graphics. It's gonna be jaw-droppingly crazy when we go to AC2. How different and better it looked, and it wasn't just the graphics; it was the frame rate.
Yeah.
How smooth things were in AC2 by comparison to AC1 was insane.
That just makes a huge difference.
It does. The irony, of course, until you pull out the dual multi-warhead missiles.
Well, I made you a demonstration of that just to show what it does.
Right.
Although I'm curious, on emulated hardware utilizing an i7. Because this is not purely software emulation. It doesn't do hardware emulation. It's just pure software running off my hardware. So if I run it the same way, we'll have the same slowdown is the question. Is it hard-coded or some kind with artifact limits? Or will my computer be like, nah, this ain't a problem?
I've always been under the impression it's kind of hard-coded. I could be wrong. I'd be totally wrong. I'd be really interested to see actually how you interact with that. But
I think it might be just because I know with the N64 and some of the older consoles, they have that sort of thing where if they detect, certain parameters are going well and above, it's like, oh, this is... I think typically it sees it almost like pirated, and then it causes problems.
Well, I think what it does, I think it's designed to keep the system from hard crashing. So once it hits a certain artifact limit, it tries to keep it from... All right, so in case you're wondering what I did,
there's the wall.
There's the wall. So you notice what I'm doing here? Do you see where my reticle is?
Yeah.
I'm purposely aiming to the right because the AI, little tidbit here, the AI is designed to get itself out of your reticle. So if you position yourself on a wall and aim your reticle to the right, technically that means position-wise, the AC or the AI sees the fact that the shortest distance to get out of your reticle is to the left. Well, to the left is a wall.
Welcome to the wall.
So it turns out the strongest weapon in Armored Core isn't the Kurosawa or the Moonlight, but rather the wall.
The wall. I think they fixed that in AC2, though. I don't think it works anymore, as far as I understand it.
Yeah, and picking up the note about frame rates and stuff you were talking about earlier, you know, I in no way, jokes aside, I don't want to be reductionist at all. The improvement from AC1 to AC2 is really drastic. It's almost like going from Streets of Rage 1 to Streets of Rage 2. That's the last time I really felt that big jump. But yeah, the frame rate, just the look, just the feel in general, you know, it's a massive up and it's a massive increase. As far as which one do I feel people took to, Cheng? This borrows from your question a little bit. I want to say 2, but now I'm gonna put a caption with that. 2 was where I started to at least become roughly aware that there was a larger community. Like 1 was a very isolationist thing. Oh, Moonlight Range here. It was like me and maybe like one of my friends from next door, right? Like I didn't know anybody around me that played this, and I think those who did stick with 1 all the way through MOA, by that point you had a pretty dedicated fan base. People, you know, dug AC and stuff like that. Even if you were just window shopping, and it was your first AC, MOA was expansive enough to, I think, to pull you in with the arena and everything like that. But with AC2, and with being one of the early PS2 titles as well, that gave it an exposure that I think AC really didn't have before.
Yeah,
and it was such a cool frontliner game for the early PS2 era, and let's not forget, it was also a pioneer as far as in the Japanese end for the release. This was one of the early games that had online versus, you know, and I know we missed out on that on the North American side of it, but for both the yeah, I know, but both the JP and NA side, 2 was a really important game, and I think it was the one that really helped elevate AC to that next point. So. Yeah,
Okay.
people. Yeah, you know, people leave this out, and I think too often AC is thought of as just like, oh, it's this niche thing, and you know, there's just this one community in the corner, and they play it. Like, no, AC actually has a history of being pretty cutting edge, doing stuff you didn't see games that era do. You saw it all through the AC1 series, the AC2 series did it really well. We got to what we call the golden era, you know, in AC3, how it had a lot of really cool features, and then PS3 era came, and you know, AC4 was still, you know, a headliner.
What happened there?
Wow, just a little movement.
The carousel doesn't stun lock, does it?
No.
Here, I'm gonna switch this to his perspective because I'm genuinely confused what just happened here. He literally sat in the middle of the room.
Oh, he's kneeling. He was trying to go for
But he's not even looking at me.
It gave up.
I'm so confused. What? What?
It only had to turn. It really just only had to turn a little bit, and it would have gotten you inside. But it's like, nope, never mind.
I mean, I know the carousel is mind breaking, but this is it's next level. It's next level.
Okay. I'm glad what just, yeah, I was really confused what just happened there. That's why I had to switch. I'm like, what is this? D-Deep. An archaeologist. The filthy inland waters. His experience dates the Great Destruction.
Wow.
How about that reference?
Man, I want to ask this guy about him and his grandpa's history. He's got some stories. So this has popped up, and we talked, you know, especially in the earlier runs. The Great Destruction has always been a centerpiece for the Armored Core games as far as like a story beat, right? And this is really in line with From's thing they've always done of having a very sort of washed over mysterious world that had some kind of cataclysmic event happen, and you have to piece it together, or find the clues and hints that bring you to why things are the way they are. This happens in Elden Ring. This has happened in the Dark Souls series and so many others, and this shows. Look, all the way back here was no different with AC. It's a From Software thing.
Oops,
Yeah. Lucky to have a Moonlight.
That blade did 100 damage. My defense is too high for you.
Too strong.
All right, I gotta
Too much
stand still.
beef.
Charges faster. I forgot.
Yeah, that's stationary. This is going to come into play a lot later on. We'll talk about this in AC2.
I'm just gonna turn slowly.
Oh, you just slowly turn to face him again, and you'll see, like, he's dead. He's toast. And done. Good old Blade Wave. That's great.
Just a big heavy, just like slowly looking your direction, like, oh gosh, I'm dead. That was like Superman, like in the Justice League movie, you know, with little Flash going super fast around. Also, just like Superman just turns his eyes, looking like, oh, I'm dead.
Man. You know, we're gonna get into more of this later. You'll see it you'll see it on your equip page too, with both stationary and move drain.
Yep.
How those play into your design, and also how there's some cool little tricks later on. Especially they get really pronounced in AC2, where you can really take advantage of that stationary drain stat in the new overboost mechanic. It's real crazy.
Vlad,
Not the Impaler.
not un vampire. Very careful and superstitious.
Superstitious. That's fun.
I like how his name is Vlad, and his emblem has very obvious, like, Chinese connotations to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was about to mention that.
Boy.
Now we're breezing through this arena real quick, but does anyone remember? Does each arena get harder, or is it just like?
My understanding, the lake ones they're relatively the same. They're getting somewhat more difficult. Like, this guy's dodging a little more.
Mm-hmm.
Let me get my energy back up. Hi. Hi. What is
Hey,
what?
Okay.
They're looking away again. What is this?
What the heck?
Did I like break the matrix? What just happened?
Are you using your shadow
Look,
clone doppelganger
He's
hack
looking
again?
away.
He's seeing things, Claire.
It's just-
He sees your image
It's just-
on the other side of the map.
See, we're sitting here talking about overboost, which isn't in the game yet, and apparently Cleric's already done it.
Like,
Overboost so fast,
I'm gonna
it's
watch
not-
this replay again, because again, I'm just confused.
The heck?
It's interesting too, because I don't think we've seen that with like
No,
the other time.
the other arenas weren't like this. Not
No,
even
we
close.
didn't. We didn't. Mm.
All right, watch his perspective here. So he keeps a good track of me here. I'm tagging him quite a bit. I get him down to about half health,
Okay.
and I go low energy, so I stop to start charging. Kept tracking me all this time, and then goes around the wall, still sees me, shooting me. Yep. And then as soon as he goes over here, look.
Seeing ghosts.
What in the world?
That's really bizarre. What the heck?
Okay, and then kind of snaps out of it there. Huh.
Huh. I have no words. Okay, sure.
Armored Core, Stranger Things.
Oh man.
That's weird.
But yeah, so outside the lake type
Up that
discussion,
hill.
I remember the lake type ones. Oh, it's Moon. When you get to the pro one, is it pro? It's something like that. That's down below.
Hold on, it's Master?
Master, maybe it's Master.
Yeah, I think it's Master because the description is literally extra difficult AC arena.
Extra difficult. That guy just flew at me and passed me. Like, that man was on a mission to get on the other side of me.
Man, he didn't even blade you. It's like, so yeah,
Gotta go.
Look at this.
gotta go fast.
Why? Is he
Again?
he's just passing me.
I think he's just flanking you, maybe. But just really badly.
That man,
There we go.
I cannot explain this AI right now. I can't. I really can't.
It's doing its best, cleric.
I guess maybe it just sees my stats when I'm just like, you know what, forget it. Dude's got like thousands of shell and energy defense. Forget this guy.
Sheesh.
Hi game. I said cancel. I don't know what you're doing.
Oh, having a grand old time, you know.
Hello? Okay. Didn't even read my inputs to cancel the replay. Oh, yeah. Sure. I'm just gonna blame all this on emulation. How's that sound? Does that sound good?
That's fair.
How's that
Convenient
sound?
scapegoat, but all right.
His AC
Ernest.
consists of basic parts. Still remains
we
well
go.
balanced offensively and defensively. Oh yeah, basic parts. You know, GNL, multi-missile. That's so
I have a
basic.
question for you guys. Were there any AC1 tournaments? That's the first question.
If there was, I was not aware of them because I was in junior high.
Yeah, if they were, they definitely predated us.
Okay, and I guess the second question that is more general. Did you ever see, like, people ever try to use, like, story mode ACs in tournaments?
Oh,
Either
that's
for
a
fun or,
fun
you know.
thought. No, I saw paint schemes. I've seen paint schemes reminiscent
Yeah,
of
lots of
famous
9-ball
stuff, but-
paint schemes. Tons of them.
Of course. Tons of those. I've seen somebody doing a homage to the Blue Zeo from AC2 and stuff like that. Paint schemes, but never functional practical designs.
No, me either.
I think it would be difficult to call it an intro AC, but I know my first AC tournament, ACMM2, which was for Silent Line, Mayhem 44. He ran a design that was you could almost call this a poster child midweight. I mean, I'm talking old school midweight biped with missile launcher back with the radar and like was it like a rifle? I mean, all he was missing was like plus and a back cannon, and he could have been an intro AC. I mean, that's about as old school bare bones as you can get.
Part obtained. All right, now I gotta get myself some quads.
See,
This is Zealous's favorite part.
here's the part where I just go galaxy brain, just so happy.
Oh, I have
So happy with
I forgot-
this.
I forgot I got them all. All right, Gavroj. Give me all them parts.
You're about to enter the best arena with the best leg. This
Oh,
is the prime rib.
Hazel, I got a question for you. And this will
Mhm.
be straight in your sphere. So base armored core and sort of up until Last Raven, the main thing that quads had were, you know, they could fire the back weapons.
Mhm.
And obviously, if you don't have plus or op intensify, but you can fire the back weapons while moving. So, if there was another AC game, what would you? How would the quad legs have to develop to be, you know, interesting, useful? You know, basically, still be, I don't know, necessary or like, you know, survive in a new AC.
For me,
Oh, I forgot. I can't equip the carousel with quad legs.
You can't.
I
That
forgot.
You can.
is it certain? Is it a certain one? Or am I missing
I
something?
think it's any quad leg.
Oh,
Let me confirm
Yeah.
this. It's been too long.
I think that's right. I always remember. That's right. The Big Daddy counterweight felt like it always interfered. That's my headcanon about it anyway. Oh.
Equipment and impossible.
Equip impossible. Yeah, I don't think
That's
you
3
can.
different quad legs. I can't use it. So.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that was another limitation. So you're talking about limitations of quads. This will. I feel, to give you an answer on this, Cheng, this goes back a little bit to why I got in quads in the first place. And believe it or not, this might find it kind of hard to believe. No, it wasn't to do with the bat cannons at all. Funny story. The reason I started playing quads because I love their movement. There was something about the way they glided. Right. I like the low center of gravity. I like that they had a really cool stat balance, in my opinion, at least. There were some that were lower in shell defense, but you got a really nice weight distribution. You got some good energy defense. You could still jump like a biped, right? But they weren't bipeds. They felt more kind of like this, mobile tank, mobile weapons platform. And I thought that was awesome. And I actually discovered cannon firing after the fact. When I first got into squads, I was like, oh, so that's an extra advantage. So for me, at least, just enjoying AC and as someone who just plays quads, what would they have to have? Assuming everybody can fire cannons on the go and stuff like that. I think if you give them a really interesting movement package, depends how that interacts with the rest of the mechanics. I don't know what kind of new overboost or whatever we'd have, but the mobility, movement, and the stat mix is paramount for me. If I can play quads that really capture type of movement that bipeds and stuff you don't have, I will be just as hooked. That's always been what it's about for me, always.
Nice. Sorry, I was just distracted by Cleric's quad play. I've never seen him play a quad before in my life.
I'm loving this. I'm loving this. Well, welcome to the slide.
Bullying.
The poke.
See, this is something that early quads really changed, and it actually took some adjustment when I got to playing AC3. See, it wasn't until AC3 where quads actually gained a proper walk, right? So with gaining that walk, they also gained the boost movement along the ground like bipeds and reverse joints and others would. So if you held boost, you would move faster along the ground. Instead of like an AC1 and AC2, holding boost would make you fly. So one of the coolest things about quads, movement-wise, was you got a lot of ground speed without needing a boost. I thought that was awesome. Whereas everybody else would have to, you'd have to really throttle that boost and hold down. Again, that went away, and we didn't have that, AC3 on. I dealt with it. It's fine. But I think something like that, Cheng, getting your question, would be really interesting. I mean, imagine, right, if a quad was about as fast as someone else would be at top ground speed holding boost. And Lord forbid if we get a crazy boost mechanic that you could throttle like a short range something, not quick boost, more of kind of like a booster rev, I don't know, or if the basics, right, hold a boost with the ground movement and now you go even faster.
Yep.
There you go. I think that could be really cool. Now, there's a critical voice out there saying, well, just go play AC4. That's what quads did. They were really fast along the ground, but they didn't reach that level of speed. They were fast, right? But not quite what I'm talking here.
Poke of death.
Poke. And this is another cool thing about having a quad. Like, look, by virtue of using this leg type, when you did your blade attack, you got a massive damage boost.
Yep.
Like it's just such a cool inherent property. The poke of death, we call it the POD, and this is another really cool inherent quality of playing a leg type in Armored Core, and what can differentiate. In my dream world, I would love to see every leg type have something, give it some kind of cool quirk that would make it worth it on top of the way it moves.
I do have a quirk with a heavy biped.
Here we go.
It's called superiority.
Oh, them's fighting words. Them's fighting words there. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. This guy here, Mr. I got massive shell and massive energy defense. You think you own the playground just because you stomp around in your size 16 boots?
I think you need to show him the legs, Zealous. All 4 of them.
Oh man, and you know what? And I will not hear the Church of Tolima say a thing about this. No
Listen,
interference.
All you need is Tolima in your life.
Oh man.
So Cleric, I know you're the one at the controls here, but
Yep.
what's your feelings on these quad legs now that you've had to play them?
I mean, honestly, I like the ground speed. I legitimately do.
Yep.
I mean, that was always the thing with quads, was the ground speed. The ground speed is insane. Oh dear. Is he looking at the wall again? He's not firing at me. Did he run out of ammo? Did he run out of ammo?
Good question.
All right, we're doing a little replay. No, so while the replay is going, I'll talk about the quads. The ground speed is nice. I gotta tell you though, the constant, like anytime I want a boost to go faster, I go in the air, does drive me a little crazy.
Yeah, that is annoying.
That's why you gotta just feather, just feather. It'll treat
Dude,
you right.
Look how much ammo he has. There's no way he ran out of ammo.
Oh, he's got like 70 plasma cannon rounds. Good lord.
But yeah, no, yeah, so they feather, which is I was doing a little bit of that in the first run I had him. But it's just, like, with my why, just ground speed, it's good.
You're right, yeah.
But it's interesting because, okay. Oh, did he bottom himself out? Oh,
yeah, he's
the
got
AI will
problem
not
here.
let him trigger or fire his energy when he's in red.
Yep.
That makes sense. But yeah, no, I mean, Zealous and I have spoke at length, about leg tight, especially, quads and stuff. And I agree.
Oh, yeah.
The AC1, AC2 style of quad did throw me off a lot. Quads didn't bother me as much, 3 and on. Although I think I remember talking before, all of my bladers were quads.
Right, you did.
Yeah, when we did like blading tournaments or blade setups, my blades were always quads. Because I figured, again, I joke about heavy biped, but in all honesty, what really is my play style? Damage.
Heavy with the big stick.
Damage is my play style. So, whatever I can do to lay out the most amount of damage the fastest way possible is what I like to play. It usually involves big giant things, but sometimes in the case of blading, it was a quad because poke of death.
Oh man. Now, it's funny. It's funny with that moniker. Now I say that, but again, I put an asterisk beside it because I know how much you like heavies. Not just being able to deal damage, but to stay toe to toe in a slugfest if you have to,
Yep.
and be guaranteed that you're going to win it and that you'll come out of it with an advantage. Because see, I think if you just played raw DPS, that you probably would have come up with some crazy little like lightweight scooter, and you would have mastered the art of parry blading people out of OB. That
sounds like too much work.
See, and this here is the genius of Armored Core. Part of why I love it. We can say like, all right, I want to make a damage setup. It's like, okay, well, how do you want to do it? Do you want to be really mobile? Well, that was a close match.
It was.
Do you want to be able to lay? Yeah. You want to lay down damage like a missile boat? Do you want to throw cannons? There's lots of ways to deal that tier damage. It's not just one way. I think that's what's so amazing about this series. You had crazy people back in the day who, Booyaka could do it, Decapman could do it. There were some people from RJL, Reverse Joint Legion, Kuroa Kenshin. Yep. Kuroa Kenshin was one of the most awesome.
There were a lot of reverse joints in the Legion of the Dragon too.
LOTD, yeah, you're right. And just seeing them be able to land a poke parry blade, out of Novi was unbelievable. It's an ungodly move, and it dealt crazy damage. But the speed it took to do that, and the mobility in your design, and the skill it took to land that—that's a whole different.
Then there's the blade arms later on with double poke.
Samurai, yeah,
double poke. Then of course there was the I've actually dubbed the pile bunkers.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Right. Like by the
Solid
time we
blades.
get to pile bunkers and parry blades.
Parry blades.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was speaking to. we get those, and then by AC5 and Verdict Day, we get another tier, which is the over weapons.
Yep.
And you know, it just kind of keeps escalating from there. So. Man, yeah, which reminds me, I know I'm getting off track here. Cheng, what did you? I never really gathered your thought. What did you think of over weapons?
Okay, so do you remember like the old AC5 before they introduced the team parts?
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, it was still a single player game. It was supposed to be really expansive. I didn't really understand the point of them, because it's like, okay, so the scenario is based on the way they were supposed to design it. Armored cores were supposed to be, you know, a lot weaker because they're smaller, so smaller enemies are supposed to put up a bigger fight. But like,
Sure.
if you think about it, what scenarios do overweapons really work? Like in a boss fight, maybe, but like they've always just felt overhyped. Like, it made more sense when they moved to the team format, but like I just, other than the current version of 5, I don't know, don't feel too strongly about them, basically.
Yeah.
The emblem. The emblem, man.
I love that.
Link Spinks AC Kitten. Oh, man.
Great.
But yeah, didn't really understand them in the original version of, you know, AC5, and they're okay in 5 and Verdict Day. I would say most of the issues would have to be with the gameplay and how you can use them rather than the weapon designs themselves.
Sure. Sure.
We did sort of miss out on some of the more interesting ones, though, because if you look at the concept art, they had like a bunch of different types of overweapons that we didn't get to see actually be used.
They did. They did. They did. And you know, we had the Grind Blade, and I think the Grind Blade being like the poster child. I almost feel that the overweapons were ultimately like they didn't fully fulfill the initial vision, because the first time I activated it, what came in my mind, I'm like, oh, this is limiter release. They're literally bringing back limiter release again. Just a heads up, limiter release is a mechanic you guys are going to see when we hit AC2. It was a mode that enabled you to, what it sounds like, completely blow the cap off your generator cap, and you had no limits to your energy. You could go ham. Anybody Dragon Ball fans out there, it's literally Kaioken meets AC, literally.
Yep.
But when you ran
energy, out, infinite boost, infinite overboost, yeah, it was.
Yeah. But if you ran out, you were struck. You not only had a recovery period for limiter release, but then after that, then you had your recovery energy period. So obviously there's a lot of disadvantages to it, but in the same hand, anybody who's hearing this thinking, oh, well, you could really twist this to the... Yeah. In the right scenario, it could really be insane. It could totally, obviously swing a match. I thought it was a really interesting idea. I could see in a tournament setting that could be kind of broken, of course. But when I saw that pop back up in 5, it really felt like the return of that. But they didn't push the energy end of it is crazy, because now you have this big screaming weapon that you have to fire before your time's out. Oh.
Yeah, it's also interesting. I never thought of it from that perspective. Like, it's a bit clearer now that you sort of said it explicitly. But it's like even the Grind Blade, like that one suffers really badly because obviously when you use your overweapons, you don't get any back slots, but then you also lose your arm.
Yeah.
It's like that's
so extreme.
Yeah. I think maybe if they pushed it more in that direction, maybe, but not, basically go for what you were saying before, like more along the lines of a more well conceptualized limiter release, but like it just,
right.
Yeah, overweapons were interesting. The giant cannon, of course. My problem is, why bother with that when you can just go tank leg and ram someone and one shot them?
Yeah, I think 5 and Verdict Day had a lot of stuff that was conflicting. I mean, it makes for some interesting scenarios, but it's like when you start to break it down and think about it more, there's like, okay, you have this, but then you have this stuff too, which is easier, faster, better, and sort of so on and so forth. Like, don't get me wrong, being a tank, and Cleric, I think you can agree with this too. It was great, just like kicking the crap out of any pilers or meleeers that try to get you.
Yep.
But at the same time, it's like if it's something that everyone has, you know,
Right.
it kind of changes dynamics a lot.
Well, there was almost no need to equip a blade at that point. Like it almost became like Gazwag, you could put a gun there. Because if you really need to melee someone, you could just melee them with your legs.
And then you run into the thing about blades, how useful they are on, like, if you're not a lightweight, it gets complicated basically. We could basically go all week.
Oh yeah. And you know, this is the core of part of what made all this stuff always so fun. It's because you can pick up minutia about AC in almost any general aspect, combat design, you name it, and you can literally start, like, fill up a message board and start writing essays on this stuff. This is hands down to this day one of the deepest, most detailed, you know, series I've ever played. And there's few things that have ever touched this or hit this tier for me as someone who loves to have the garage part of it, right? You know, tinker with the design and then take that into the combat part of it. There's a lot of games, like, you know, in RPGs and stuff where the level up system and what you equip will go so far, right? And equip is equip. That's all you need to understand. You see, understand the attack power of your sword and maybe like your armor rating. Anybody out there who plays Elden Ring and stuff, you understand your poise gauge and stuff like that. But AC, whole different beast. Whole different beast. You know, having knowledge of your frame, your defense, of your energy usage, of your generator cap, of your heat.
Well, the fact that your legs affected your turn speed.
Your turn speed, exactly. The way optional parts came to interact with everything we just mentioned and above, and then we didn't even get into weapons yet.
Yep.
You know, there's so many side conversations about all this. It's just an unbelievable game, and the fact that you had all these mechanisms working this early in the PS1 series is an achievement. Like,
I can't remember if it was AC2 or AC3 that had the one, like, heavy biped, which had low drain, high AC, high, you know, solid defense, high energy defense. Like, man, why doesn't everyone use these legs? And you figured out the turn speed was garbage. It was essentially unplayable because of the turn speed. As I said, I can't remember if that was AC3 or AC2, but man, there was a heavy biped that literally was. This guy, I'm not even trying to dodge this guy. He's just hitting with everything, and it does not even matter.
He's digging in.
For a second there, I forgot that I thought Cleric was firing the machine gun. I realized, oh no, he's the one getting hit.
Yep.
It's all a blur. It's all a blur.
That is a big, you know, context splash.
Speaking of which, don't you miss those, like, massive effects that were in AC1 where it basically blinds you half the time?
Oh man.
Gosh.
That was the craziest thing about one. There were so many just blaring, blazing effects and things that gave you massive stun and massive kickback. I just think kinetically, AC1 with, hey, nice special part, nice. With especially how hard you get hit with cannons or back cannons, like, I just remember AC1 feeling like my AC turned into a ping pong ball the most. Anything else, like, you got hit with something in AC1 that would literally make you feel like you got smashed by a semi truck, like.
It's like, there was one in particular. There was that video a bit ago about someone did, like, a review, I think, of AC1, and they came against Losfis, I think, Valkyrie, and then she used, what does she have on the back? Is it? I can't remember.
Didn't she have
like a shot? It's like some sort of shotgun.
It was a slug gun. Slug gun.
There we go. Yeah, and that thing, as soon as she, like, kneeled down, that dude was like getting pushed off the map.
Oh man.
Back to my Kurosawa.
Missed it.
Reverse joints. Here we go. Here we go. Helen.
Nice.
repeated low trajectory jumps. He was a champion long jumper. Like, champion long jumper in ACs? Or, like, human?
Those thematic builds are just always hilarious. And the description.
I'm really good at long jump. I'm going to be reverse joint. Okay.
No.
I'm in a wheelchair.
Great.
I'm gonna go for hover.
Ooh, that missile buff. Or it makes you jump.
Oh yeah, Cheng. Well, I'm a drummer. I'm gonna use a quad. There. Well, it makes sense, right? I got my throne. It's got like a couple legs, right? And then I got a foot in each pedal. Need a quad.
Now,
These puppies are fast.
Man.
Reverse joints, man.
You know, I
like.
Go ahead, Cheng.
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna say, I don't think like at this stage, like, there's in later games there's like a lot of clear definition on like the weight classes. Like, you'll have your standard biped and one that's faster and one that's, you know, more heavily armored. I don't think at this point there's not really that sort of clearness in the leg type. So most of the reverse joints, I think, are just like pretty fast in general.
Yeah, I have the heaviest set on, but even they're not that slow.
Yeah.
Gotta keep that defense up.
Really interesting. I always said if I didn't play quads, I would have played a reverse joint. That was a very, very close second in my book. I always liked them. I liked equip-wise how they were really drain friendly. Obviously, the jump. I mean, you literally went from like a quarterback running around to like Michael Jordan. As soon as you equipped an RJ, like the jump was crazy, the aerial ability. Oh yeah. Anybody who loves air combat, it's for you.
Just think, Cleric, there's an alternate universe where Zealous is talking about nothing but reverse joints.
Hey, have I talked about reverse joints yet? Here's why reverse joints are the best.
That really takes me back, Cheng. You know, it was AC2 Abandoned Highway. That's where I truly got an armored core. You know, and I remember that day sitting, and I had tried on quads, right? And I had gone through RJ, and I made the call then what I was gonna pilot like the rest of my life. And yeah, RJ had a good run at it. It had the stats on paper, and it was a lot of fun to play too. So I think if I lean more towards an air style, like a play style like an air sniper, I would have done a RJ. I think it just makes sense for that. But really cool leg type.
Cannot wait to get to the Nexus era.
We got quite a ways, Cleric.
I know, it's gonna take a while. I'll be 45 by the time we get there. Yep, proper controls. The true domination of weapon arms that I used a lot at that point.
Oh yeah.
Not having to use like D-pad or
Yep.
the equivalent.
Yep. So Zealous, you can tell a true story about that specifically. So, you know, I'm using a JK control setup, you know, because I'm on emulator and things. But you,
Right.
even after the dual analog switch, you stayed classic controls for a while, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. So let's see. Remind me now. The analog came out around
Nexus.
the Nexus era.
It was Nexus.
Yeah, I stayed classic all the way through Nexus era. Nexus 9 Breaker, Last Raven. I never left it. Never left it. Reasons why? It wasn't because I was like, oh, superior, blah, blah. No, I didn't get anything
Muscle
like that. Cheng's nailed it. Muscle memory. Exactly. There's a lot of things that I thought were actually pretty superior about analog, especially if you were dual gunning. You were running any kind of setup with the right and like left hand. Oh, unbelievably awesome! Yeah, it was a great setup, and I also loved how fast you could reach your inside parts.
Yep.
It just it was fast. It was free flowing. It really made the combat part of your AC, you know, to bring all your weapons to bear at once and really just barrage someone. It was awesome. And I think someone would really have to have crazy dexterity to like break their fingers to do that on a regular, but on a regular control setup. But like Chang said, by that point, I had developed so much muscle memory with OB tactics and things like that. I didn't see the point of leaving that behind because I wanted more weapons. If anything, I said, well, I can do more weapons, but I'm not going to be that obsessed with a dual gun setup where I have to change. And at the end of the day, I'm glad I still stayed with classic controls because there was just a certain finesse, especially with the techniques like slide hopping and things like that, that just felt right. That I just really didn't want to leave.
Was there anyone else who was sort of that similar mindset? And like,
I'm trying to get out the replay, by the way, guys, and it's not letting me.
Oh,
there we go.
Dude.
I got up.
There it goes.
Yeah, well, I was saying, was there anyone else who did something similar? Like, just didn't go for, double sticks?
Yeah, he can correct me if I doubt he'll ever listen to this because he's been long gone from AC, but he's someone I really respected and had the pleasure of playing against twice in 2 separate tournaments. Wu Fei from the Midwest community. He was to OB Ponage. He was really, really talented. Bipeds, RJs, but usually like bipeds. Really good blader, energy weapon user, Kson, stuff like that. But he played traditional style too, and I remember if I remember right, he kept that all the way through the vestiges of the AC3 era. It's interesting. I think the biggest thing you saw with Nexus, especially, was less of a revolution in how everyone played. The biggest revolution was the heat mechanics, right? And now with the extra restrictions we had. Once everyone adjusted to that, I felt everyone didn't change their style, right? People who had sort of built calluses in AC by that point, who played a lot of AC, that was still there. It was just coming to a different point in your design career and coming up with a way to accommodate what you wanted to do. Once everyone figured that out, they doubled down on their styles and they pushed it even further. And that was really exciting to see. I'll tell you what, being in the middle of watching the whole overboost game change was awesome. And having to relearn so many things that I had loved, and I had done. I loved every second of that. It was I was never sad like oh, I got to do this again. This is such a drag. No, it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. So I think the people that kept it were especially some of the really, really high speed players, people who loved the OB and stuff to death. They were usually the ones I'd see holding on to traditional. So of course some did analog and OB, especially that'd be a natural thing. Oh, nice hit, clean. As we'd go into AC4 and later, but for sure. I need to ask. I wonder if OBG gang, Overboost gang, like the Captain and Booyaka and all of them, if they use traditional controls. I don't know. They were big on that too.
See, I was never much like for example, the Call of Duty franchise. It got really. It was like the first like FPS. Obviously that's like GoldenEye, like on N64. We got major following on like consoles for console first person. Like FPS were kind of almost purely dominated by PC. But Call of Duty made it popular, so my in-laws, my brothers-in-laws, like to play Call of Duty on like PlayStation and stuff. So when they came out, we played when we have like LAN parties or stuff and play with them. I'll get to play with them. So or like Halo Nights, for example, started playing Halo. That was dual analog stick. So between Call of Duty and Halo, I got really used to dual analog. So when Nexus came out, like it was a no-brainer. Like it's obvious that I'm going to be switching to this control scheme.
Right. It's interesting. Really interesting. I do like how AC left room for that. To be honest, I don't know if this is something we're ever going to get back. I feel... I know actually now at this point that usually we get a control scheme, it's sort of what it is. I mean, you can map certain buttons if you want to shift them around. I just don't see there being much of a point in any kind of future game like this with having a quote-unquote legacy and a new type. There is no legacy control style now. I think that would be kind of counterproductive.
Let's just bust out a Steel Battalion setup and play that one.
Yeah, why not, right? Why not? But if there's one thing I'll always adhere to. Gosh darn it, R3 is overboost.
That button is designed for overboost.
Yeah.
In my case, Exceed Orbit when that came out.
Yeah. Yeah.
More damage, right? Why wouldn't I pick EO, right?
Oh man, it just gave you an excuse.
Yep, it did.
I think the best way I can describe the way watching your designs change over the years, Cleric, was like watching like a guy in a marching band start off with the bass drum, and by the time it ends, you've got a set of cymbals, you've got like a snare, you've got like rototoms, you've got quads. You're just like literally the band. Inside parts, right arm, left arm, back weapons, missiles, and go, and blah 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 blah. EO core, take everything.
Hey, more ways to deal damage.
It's
That's what it was about.
oh boy.
Hey, I think I mentioned in the last video, my number one part of all time to this day is still urchins. I love the
Sneaky.
urchins to this day. To this day, it doesn't Kurosawa, nah. Finger, nah. Moonlight, nah. Even heavy bipeds, which I am a heavy biped person, nah. No. My single of any of all AC games of any part of any section, hands down, love the urchins.
They were so nasty, and you just didn't see them coming every time.
I'm in the inability to cancel the replay right now, by the way.
Gosh, darn it. Dang. But no, the urchins were just hilarious. Like, so untelegraphed. Just this little squad of fleas coming at you that literally set you on fire. I still remember the first time we saw it. We were looking at what the Nexus preview. It was back when Cleric and I were like in high school, and we saw some versus footage, and someone got cornered, and all of a sudden this little like flood of mines came out of nowhere and hit him. And Cleric yelled, "Whoa, whoa!"
And you're the little tiny metallic tinks you hear.
And Cleric had me play that back at least 4 times. That seems like, what was that? Literally, what was that? That was amazing.
Well, all I saw was a bunch of little explosions, and then the dude's like, rant, rant, rant. I'm like, whoa, what is this? What is this part? I must know what this part is. And as soon as I got them unlocked, I'm like, yep, every AC I make from now on has this part.
Oh, man.
Forever and ever, Urchin will exist in my ACs, as long as it exists.
I'm actually... Cleric is the only person I know in the AC community who's found an inside part like urchins that really resonated with them. This whole idea first came up in AC3, the intro to AC3. And come on, who doesn't love that part near the end of the intro where the headless AC that just been blown away by the heavy backs up, and all of a sudden he opens up his arm slots, and like a bunch of spots on his core, and like 40 missiles come flying out. That idea of having several hidden canisters like missiles to unleash or something is so cool. And I always wish they pushed crazier inside parts with AC. I think that would have been really, really cool. And yeah, right. And I got really hyped when AC3 hit that intro hit, because I was hoping that was a sign for the future. Literally pulling some Gundam Heavy Arms custom stuff. Throwing open up your core, open up the inside of your legs, crazy stuff. That didn't happen, but I think the urchins were kind of like the closest we got to something like that. Usually, most inside parts consisted of like decoys, the radar jammers, things like that. Although decoys were could be broken in their own right. You know how to use them. The way they could absorb, whole grenades, and things they were not supposed to stop was really funny.
All the meta options.
You know what? That actually brings me to another question too. So big change that started with 4 onwards is you can shoot down missiles, because before they were basically intangible. What are your guys' thoughts on that change? Should it stay the same? Is it better to be able to shoot missiles?
Wow, that was fast. I thought it was to be honest, look, some of my feelings in AC4, but I thought that was an awesome change. I think it's really cool, and I think it made sense. It felt a little jumbled as far as a little. If it always felt like a little scrambled mid combat, like it never felt like a very very super precise mechanic. You get quick locks and knock them out of the air. And that made sense to me in the middle of a firefight between two giant mechas. These massive 80 caliber weapons. Yeah, of course you could knock a missile or two out of the air. That's cool. In fact, I really like that mechanic. But I almost wonder if that could expand into something cleaner one day, or have a cleaner feeling.
Well, my thought process was always the fact that if you're going to do that, they should have made missiles less difficult to dodge. More difficult to dodge. Like, it wasn't hard to dodge missiles. It almost felt like a waste of ammo to shoot them.
Claire's got a point here. I think the key with that change, that mechanic, I think it's a really good highlight. There's at no point where I ever felt, oh cool, let me really make use of this new mechanic where I can shoot missiles because I'm having a hard time avoiding the missiles.
Yep.
Not once. Was it cool and flashy? Yeah, it looked awesome. This is coming from a heavy biped
user who didn't really utilize dodging and use more damage soaking.
Right.
And missile dodging was not hard for me with a heavy biped. So there wasn't much of a point in the shoot down mechanic because it didn't. Like, if missiles were made much more accurate and much more annoying to dodge and have to deal with, then yeah, I could see that being a viable mechanic they're adding to the system. This dude is fast. What?
Yeah, he's super quick.
I could see that being legit.
It's proof, right? AC4 vanilla. You could hammer somebody with a muscle shell.
Yep.
And even with you want to go really ham and run dual muscle shell or something, have a constant flak volley barrage. Even that never felt so overwhelming. I can't deal with this. This is like dual verts or something from AC2. No, I didn't feel that it just became too much for you at any point.
Nope, never felt too bad to me, to be honest with you. In fact, I kind of feel like missiles as a whole kind of got almost completely derailed at AC4 and on. As a whole.
That's interesting. What about you, Cheng?
I don't know. I'm sort of conflicted about it. I like it, but at the same time, I think it has to do with sort of the adjustment of the mechanics. It's sort of why I don't have a super strong feeling, I guess.
Right.
Because the problem with missiles is that most of the times, the ones that you face, and I would say that I speak from the 5th gen experience, I didn't really play 4.
Mm-hmm.
It's most of the ones that were being shot, missiles in general, didn't have strong attack power. There's very few missiles that
right.
could hit like an arm weapon, so...
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's an important thing too. I think that missiles sort of felt like they continually went downhill in terms of accuracy, and I really feel it looks like you can track this starting from the early ACs. Missiles were super viable in AC1. I think they're really viable in AC2 as well. In fact, to the point where it was a insane homing ability. The multi-warhead missiles in AC2 were godlike.
Yes, they were.
So strong. Both the single one and the dual back one. In fact, that single multi-warhead back was my favorite missile pack in AC2. But steadily, I think missiles started to become a little less accurate. You would get really accurate ones like the Spartois and LR, and I forget what it was called, and Silent Line and stuff. But when we got into the 3 era, it was they were sort of on or off. It really shined through what missile packs were good and what missile packs were bad, or weren't as accurate. They were viable, yeah, but there were really clear differences between each. And then we got to AC4 and 5. It really tapered off. AC4 to me felt like we're putting so many more missiles in the air now. There's so much more stuff happening, so much more in the sky, but it's so much easier to avoid it because everything's so freaking fast now. And the super accurate homing missile game is less about 4 missiles that track you really tight and more like, let me get 30 of these suckers in the air, and just barrage, and just use them as a pressure tool. Then
Actually,
you know
no,
we
these are
got.
called caterpillar legs, not tank legs. But
Hey, respect the company. I'll take it.
FYI.
And then we get into 5th gen missiles and going into kind of what you were saying, Chang. You know, I think in 5th, I never remember as much missile play as I would see in like the 3 era. At least just from a battle perspective, you know, people would. I thought I was a lot more likely to see a pile bunker being run, or even like charged up K-saws or something, than having to contend with tons of missiles.
Stuff.
I love this track.
It's funny it says faster as Cleric's just going slower.
Yeah, faster. I can't. I'm in tank legs.
Oh boy.
Don't you see I'm a caterpillar? Caterpillars don't move
It's
quick.
just-
It's one of those weird occasional names. Like, it was, I think it was Verdict Day. They called quads tetrapods.
Yes.
I'm gonna go to our resident quad expert, but Clark, Zealous, is that accurate? Is that
What you mean by
Correct.
the naming convention thing?
yes, the terminology?
I mean, did it happen in it's been so long since I played Verdict Day. I want to say that sounds right. To be honest, actually, I'm curious. I'm gonna double check that.
Time to Google.
I got it.
Zealous is on the case.
Yeah, they got renamed tetrapods. That's right. I mean, I think by that point I was so obsessed with quads and still am. I mean, I just kind of screened that out of my mind. Yeah, whatever you want to call them, they're quads.
Yeah,
Gimme.
they're quads.
So as long as it's got four legs, we're good.
I think the one of the best things about being a quad exclusive player is to be able to go into the shop. What's all this other stuff inventory? Yeah, I thought so.
Sell.
every
sell,
every
sell,
every heavy
sell,
biped, every RJ, get out of here.
Sell.
I don't want any.
sell.
Yeah.
Oh, you have so much money. I sell every other leg other than quads. Oh.
Oh boy.
Double 57. 557.
Darkness. A rare sight. This AC is equipped with only a flamethrower and extra ammunition. Remarkable.
Remarkable.
It's great.
Flamethrower. That's an interesting
Flamethrower.
That's an interesting conversation to have about AC.
Oh gosh.
An item that was never viable. Not once.
Yet they're always there.
Yep.
They were always there.
The perpetually there item that was never viable.
If it didn't take off during Nexus, it was never going to take off.
Yep. You do know flamethrower is close range weapon tanks. You have to get close for flamethrower to work. I don't know why you're going away from me.
That's hilarious too, just because at the speed that Cleric's going, it's like two old people on like, you know, those shopping mall carts.
I'm gonna get there.
Oh, good. I'm getting there eventually.
And these fights are longer than they have to be because I can't use carousel again. Because caterpillar leg type. No, that's something you haven't talked too much about. The music tracks in AC. Like, there's so many bangers. Like,
So many.
so many of the tracks in AC are so good. Like, it's you know, you think of, you know, some video games and stuff, you know, have iconic tracks and stuff. They're very iconic in the sense, right? Like, you have like
Right.
certain sounds, like melodies and thematic things. But AC doesn't have like this overarching theme idea. Not like your Mega Mans or Castlevanias or Metroids or what have you, right?
Exactly.
Even like your modern From games, like FromSoft, you know, with like Demons or Souls games or Elden Ring, they have like this like almost like a universal like orchestra soundtrack that changes like lows and highs and beats and like tempo and like instruments based on what you're encountering. But they sound kind of, you know, there's all these meme videos online of the Dark Souls music coming into play for boss fights or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
AC just has so many different tracks for so many different things. Yet they're not really thematic per se, but at the same time, a lot of them are just so good.
They are.
And I think the other thing to point out too is that over the length of the series, so you're talking about, I'm gonna count the remakes too, like what, 20 plus games, and the soundtracks have always been something that's been like almost unanimously considered like
some of the best in the business.
Great. Yeah, it's consistently great across the games, with, you know, the exception of Last Raven, but we don't really talk about that.
You don't like beat boop?
No. Or like ambient sounds 1, 2, and 6.
Right.
Last Raven's always been that odd one out, but like otherwise, it's like every series.
Yeah.
Although I do like in Last Raven the menu / garage music at the very end.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
towards the end, especially towards the end of the missions. That really deep guitar.
That bass.
Yep.
Yeah. Just those like 4 strings. It's so good. It's so good.
That I'll admit was good.
The garage stuff, I actually appreciate all 3 for different reasons, but especially that second one you just hyped. That was hands down the best one.
Yep.
The other 3 that stand out, of course, the intro 5.5.
Yep.
I think for the internecine / Zenaida mission, especially Fallen Device, that was a really, really good track. And the one beep boop track that I think actually worked was Works Clock Signals. I thought that was really good. Really, really good. It's such a strange track because it sounds like somebody striking a steel bar on a railroad track for like the first couple measures, and then it kicks off. Then it kicks off, and it's awesome.
I can't even remember what any. I know for a fact we talked about that specific song, though. But like, I am
Smoked. Nice job.
like I remember so little about Last Raven when it comes to the music that I can't even think about what that sounds like. It's not in my head anymore. It's gone.
Yeah. Of course, you have the iconic tracks in AC, which is the 9-ball theme.
You know,
Of course.
Like when that piano starts, man, like, oh no.
Yeah, it's weird, right? Especially the end of the AC3 era, I really felt Nexus was the last one to have so many just iconic songs all in a row.
Yep.
You know, Ninebreaker is kind of passable. I mean, let's face it, here's what's sad. One of the most memorable tracks from Ninebreaker was actually from Nexus.
Yep.
because I think it takes most of Nexus's soundtrack, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it, yeah. And there's some of the training mission themes are new, but they're pretty forgettable. But I mean, when you hit the end of Ninebreaker and Galaxy Heavy Blow kicks in for 9-ball, it's like, what? Oh, I love that.
Hey, have you forgotten you have a song literally for that AC?
Funny, right?
This guy's a lot of missiles.
Oh man, he does.
This one, Missile Man.
Bang on accurate too. Just tanking it. This is a slug out.
He has a lot of missiles. I'm gonna find this pillar for a little bit.
He'll let you.
Oh, who was first? Oh, draw!
Oh, man. Double KO.
Double KO.
Well, happens in Tekken. Can happen here.
Faster, faster, faster.
I gotta get close.
That's right.
He's just pummeling you.
I mean, look at this. Cleric is in the, well, Caterpillar, the equivalent of tank for AC1, but just look at how hard these missiles hit. I mean, he's getting pushed back by these things. That's crazy. You know, it's rare. It's rare even in later AC games to see missiles with this kind of velocity. That's insane. Like,
He ran out.
Yep.
A little bit of strategy. Sorry, dude. You ran out.
literal missile boat.
That was a lot of missiles.
Yeah.
There's a lot of missiles, and they're annoying to deal with because they kept knocking me back the whole time. That's a really annoying setup right there.
Yep.
Crazy.
Which, by the way, wouldn't have been as bad if I would have been a heavy biped, because I could have got myself close and just hit him up close. But because I'm on stupid Caterpillar. No offense to all you tank players out there. You know, honestly, if you can play this game in tank legs, like, you know, I tease, you know, Z about the quads, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I may tease the reverse joint legion or whatever it may be about, you know, reverse joints. You know, then we, of course, you have hovers. Hovers come in eventually, you know. You know, I can make fun of them. But honestly, if you can survive this game in tank legs and do well, you know, more power to you, because you're at handicap in this game.
It's interesting later on. There's conversations. I think I talked with this in a previous video. Like the cask, the Go cask, and the Go shut. The development of a tank school that's centered around mobility and overboost and turn boosters to make up for the tank speed handicap was crazy. And you literally had these jousting tanks that would come about, right?
Jousting tanks,
Like,
AC3 and Silent Line.
Yeah, jousting with either chain guns or grenade launchers, but especially the GNL was really, really cool. I remember the first time seeing that, and that's something that I think at least came out of the tournament scene. I didn't see it until I stepped into the tournament, and it blew my mind. I'm like, wow, look at this. Like, the tank players are out here making a whole new school of play. I never would have thought to do this on a tank. This is sick.
Yep. Yeah, jousting tanks in AC3 and Silent Line were a thing, for sure. But I think that's the only time that really was a thing.
I remember, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it might have been some in AC2. I mean, we really didn't really get into the tournament scene until very end of AC2 going into AC3. You started seeing some tournament videos coming out online and stuff at the birth of the internet. But, I mean, for the most part, there were a very number of, like, meat shield jousting tanks in Silent Line.
Really neat.
You know, that actually does bring up something that I was thinking about when it came to tanks. So, the way they move sort of makes sense, like, you know, in AC1, but then once you get to AC2, I've always found it weird that, like, when they boost, they can really sort of only go straight up.
Yep. They maintain that from AC1 all the way through.
Yeah. I think, trying to think. AC5, I think, is the only time they broke.
Dude, this guy has 999 AP.
Nice.
You gotta appreciate this.
I salute you, sir. You're still gonna die, though.
Gonna just melting him.
Well, the fact that he has the high of AP means that just shows me he has high shell defense. Is probably what he has. Yeah. Usually, the high AP ones also had high shell defense. The lower AP heavy items had higher energy defense. So I'd gladly sacrifice 300 to 400 AP to increase my energy defense by 1 to 200 because that makes a huge difference.
There you go.
I don't need that 999 AP. It's not necessary. The defense matters more. All right, Caterpillar Lake's done.
Now on to the big boys.
Now to go back to my heavy bipeds and start going to the champions.
Yep. So the first one I think is the FromSoft employees. Or nope, that's just straight up the champion. Okay, so this one's the Japanese. It looks like Project Phantasma tournament ACs.
Awesome. I love how they made this an arena. This is really cool.
Yeah, I sort of wish that was one thing that they had sort of brought back, because like especially in Verdict Day with the Unax being a thing again, they definitely could have done something similar.
Oh yeah. The Unax are just such an interesting take. Such an interesting take on the idea that started back in like SL with training AIs.
Those are the big boys, but their defense is too low. The ones I have on, I'm pretty sure the ones I use. Oh, I need a booster. I got unequipped when I did, Ooh, what was I using? There he is. VR33s, I think. Pretty sure it was VR33s is what I was using. Yeah, pretty sure that's it. Alrighty. Let's go.
Beat up some other people's ACs. Real people.
Oh, there's the FromSoft one I got unlocked.
Oh, you want to beat up the employees then?
I'll get there eventually. That's a big arena.
Well, let me see how many.
There's me.
Hey.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Siren, you
5,
recently
6,
reopened the search. Her
7, 8.
grandfather, she created her AC using data she found on a disk.
It's 15 of them.
Yep.
And then once you do the last one, I think it's actually longer.
I might make this a three-parter, depending on how long this takes. So many AC fights.
Just a little time.
I feel like I'm Speedy Gonzalez or being a tank.
Like I for a second thought you decided to go with the lighter set of legs.
Oop. Technically this is lighter when I was using. I think these are the ones I unlocked after beating the humanoid one, because they have much higher. They're very slightly less AP, slightly less shell defense, but a whole lot more energy defense, which is going to matter in these arenas. I also didn't switch the Carousel, which is a mistake. Yeah, I know. I'm out of energy. Go ahead, do your thing. Yeah, blade me, go ahead. Sure. Go ahead.
Oh, he will. Swinging, just swinging, just swinging.
My fault for not switching.
Yeah.
Should have switched. I'll take the L. It's fine. Switching back to Kurosawa.
There we go.
So I don't know much about the tournament for the way it's worked in Japan for the champions stuff
Sure.
like that, but I don't know, like, how did this come about? Does anyone really know much?
This arena or just?
Yeah, like that. What was the tournament? Like, what was like what they do?
I don't think there's any details really left. It's probably just similar to ours, a standard tournament. I think the only difference is probably was From Software sponsored, because they used to do a lot of that stuff. And I'm gonna guess they just pulled all the information for tournament winners and then just compiled them. I don't. So there are some magazines about like some of these tournaments, but they only go up to about the Nexus era. Anything really before that, like, there's also an AC2 disc and an AC3 disc as well, but like, that information has like been long gone.
Yeah, the only thing that I knew about how we got these was, you know, I know for you, all right. Was these designs being like, you know, tournament winners, or like, you know, some of like the ones that rank, but like the structure and like how it worked, or the brackets and how, like Cheng said, that's lost to time. I have no idea. I want to pretend like I know that.
So I guess for the audience then, because I know both of you guys have definitely gone to quite a few of the in-person tournaments. What was the like standard formatting, if there was one?
Best 2 out of 3. Then finals 3 out of 5, or is it always 2 out of 3?
Pretty sure finals were 3 out of 5. Double elimination.
Yep.
You know, you'd have, you know, like the Southern scene, like Texarkana and some of those events, they were done like round robin. The way it was set up, as far as the way brackets were made, but it was a pretty transparent thing. You know, I mean, the Midwest tournaments were always just, you know, double elimination, and we'd get the head count, the names all who were there, brackets would be pulled randomly, everybody would be seated and placed. It didn't matter if you won last tournament or you were, it was kind of like the combo breaker, right? The no coast, no kings thing. It didn't matter if you placed, everybody went through the bracket. You know, you didn't.
Yep.
I never remember a case of somebody getting a bye for a weird reason outside of you were scheduled to play. Yeah. Numbers are, you were scheduled to play this person and they bailed or something. Then there would be a change. But otherwise, there weren't like special like buys and stuff like that. You played. But it was how you'd imagine most tournaments. And, you know, if anyone's looking for a picture of it, look no further than the early fighting game community. I can't stress this more. Those videos you guys have seen of Evo Moment 37, you know, the famous stuff with Daigo and Justin Wong and all that, back when, you know, Street Fighter Third Strike was being played in CRTVs and on those wooden lunch tables and stuff, that was us. The only difference is the Street Fighter scene, the fighting game community took off in a different way.
Yep.
You know, Capcom started following it, Namco started following that, and, you know, actually getting behind it, but that was us. It was very, very similar. So, but it just goes to show the difference between, you know, the player base alone pushing something as opposed to it being both the players and the publishers and, you know, devs and the companies getting behind it. To a degree, that happened with AC. I mean, sure, look at From, right? I mean, getting involved enough to put winning tournament designs in the game. And From always had more of a presence in the Japanese tournaments than they did in our scene. You know, you would have hoped that Age Tech, the localizer here in the United States, would have had a stake in but they never did. They never did. I always wished Age Tech would have shown their presence more, especially for how long they published AC. You know, but oh well.
That logo's cool.
Oh yeah.
Well, oh wow, that's awesome.
That's a nice emblem. What I was gonna say too was interesting before, you know, and Nexus 2 analog, you know, that set up and everything with how restrictions were with weapons. Like, you know, AC3 Silent Line, Op-I being an optional part.
Mm-hmm.
You know, plus versus non-plus in tournaments. A lot of times they were just, because it was an optional part, there was no restriction.
Exactly.
Either you were a pluser or you had optional parts and you didn't have plus. Like, that was just, that's just how it was. Man, a lot of these ACs use blades.
Blading like crazy, yeah.
Oh.
Oh.
The angles.
Damn.
I'm talking big slashes.
Big slashes.
That's just.
So yeah, it was kind of Op-I versus not Op-I, but that caused some strife, you know, among people. I think I'm gonna back straight up. Keep my back safe.
Sort of in the same vein, though. Typically, how many people did you have show up to these tournaments?
So, ACMM started off as kind of like a smaller event before it became kind of like, you know, the premier Midwest thing. I mean, bear in mind, it wasn't hard to really get that title because no one else really putting on an event like this at the time. You know, it was, you know, Tierson went through enough trouble to get the venue, get the location, help arrange it, you know, do the brackets and do the lifting, the legwork, keep track of everything. He really did a great job of kind of bringing order to a scene that really didn't, you know, have it. That structure didn't exist in the Midwest as much before that. You know, people talked about it and did gatherings and stuff, right? But once it really kicked off and people said, "Oh, this is a thing," you know, yeah, they came. I think I'd have to hit him for the exact numbers, but I think ACMM1 had something like, oh gosh, that was a pretty big one, but not as big as MOC. That's important to note. Like 36, something like that turned out. ACMM2, so there had to be at least 40 there, if I remember right. I'll have to go look through the bracket. I think I still got the bracket folded up somewhere, or a copy of it.
Okay, so any future AC fans, just remember 36 is the magic number.
36.
You don't need 100, you just need 36 people.
That, and see, this is important. There's one thing I do remember for sure. You know, like I said, I did not attend ACMM1. Tierson filled us in on that, and you know, we remember the winners of it, and you know, how the event went in the structure. You know, but being there at ACMM2, it was not hundreds of people. No. You know, about, you know, if you got 30 or 40 AC heads in the same room, it was going to be a good time.
Oh yeah.
And it was absolutely amazing. So honestly, look, if you got a turnout like that, you were already doing pretty solid. You know, I think MOC beat us numbers wise.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that they would have at least, like, you know, 50 plus. Might have to talk to Penguin Deuce, some of the others, just to confirm that, but I'm like 85% sure that they always topped us in terms of numbers. But that's usually about where things would be. And you know, then it got to the last one, the ones I ran, the ACMA series. We had a good turnout at Grand Prairie. I mean, you remember it, Cleric? ACMA had to have been around that same number as MM2 and stuff, right?
It was around 30.
Yeah.
I mean, we had a lot of setups.
We did. And then ACMA 2 is probably one of the smaller ones for Last Raven. There's like, what, 16 of us? 18 there?
Yeah, it's something like that, yeah.
Yeah, it was a smaller event, but...
You know what? Okay, so this is sort of my curiosity from a tournament perspective, because I guess I was sort of lucky because, you know, with 5 and Verdict Day, you can do it all live. It's sort of its own downside as well, but like...
Sure.
What was the process of getting setups? Was it like one person brought like 3-4 setups?
Man.
Or did everyone bring their own setups?
Sorry, not to interrupt, but these emblems are great.
Aren't they kicking?
It's crazy. You know, I wonder if that's what sort of inspired From to just like, you know, really go hard with the emblems in the future games.
Maybe.
Because like, with the exception of some ACs, most of it's just like somewhat bland pixel art.
Yeah, you know, Z can talk more to the tournament setup side, but I remember it pretty much being, you brought up 1 or 2 controllers, you brought your PlayStation 2, you brought your copy of the game, like, I'm getting knockback is killing me.
See? That violent weaponry of AC1. Gotta be a laser cannon he's using.
Yeah, it's laser cannon.
Yeah. It's bananas. It's interesting. I felt 5 in Verdict Day tried to do this too, to kind of take things back to this scale of like explosiveness, but it didn't feel the same.
No. Yeah, I mean,
some of the effects that it did were kind of annoying.
Yeah, we had the Firewire hub for the PlayStation 2s with Firewire cables. Like, people would bring TVs, if they could bring a TV. Like, it was pretty much everyone, if like you want this tournament to happen, you got to bring your stuff. That's pretty much what it was. A lot of people brought their own setups. Some people brought multiple TVs, some people brought multiple PlayStations. But I'd say, you can kick me if I'm wrong, Zia, probably 70% of all the hardware equipment was bring your own.
Yeah. Yeah, this is important to note. You know, the AC scene, especially for the tournament community, and how important it was for player contributions. This was never a organizer brings like half the setups. No, because they just didn't have logistics for that. I mean, sure, as an organizer, you were going to collect stuff over time. People left controllers, people left link cables all the time, but only to that extent. We always really look for people who'd be willing to bring a console, who'd be willing to bring a TV if you could.
Gosh,
if you were,
got 9-ball music? What's going on?
Missiles. That's what the speed. Wow, he just wants to
He wants to hug and say hi. Well, that blade hit and dead. Okay, sure, whatever.
Okay.
That was an interesting fight.
Hilarious.
The guy just wanted to be right in my grill for whatever reason.
Really could have just stayed back.
Which is really funny, because here, I'll go back to it and I'll show you, and you'll see why this is funny. I'll go back and I'll look at it, I'll let you see his description again, and see what you think, if he fulfilled the description. Dude, all I heard was the 9-ball music start, and all of a sudden missiles everywhere. I'm like, oh gosh, what did I get myself into here? That music makes your blood pressure go up every time you hear it.
Oh man.
Wrong one. Read the thing.
He uses a high-speed attack to overwhelm his opponents. He's usually unseen by the enemy.
Check.
He's usually unseen. It's kind of hard to be unseen when you're right in my face. Man, all these tournament winners are super light bipeds.
Welcome, JP Playstyle Unmanned AC using a new ProgTech AI system known as the SU. You know, this style, it's amazing. All the way back in MOA to watching footage from Last Raven and Nexus and Silent Line. Lightweight bipeds that just sort of, would zing and just kind of tap dance on you and just, throw some damage out. Just very elegant play, not, mass destructive, everything. No, it's just very, very speedy, very tactical, brushes with death. Crazy. That was a bad time to kneel.
What's he doing?
He's not doing anything.
Okay.
Hi, AI. How you
I
doing?
think he's done.
I feel kind of bad. Not that bad. Well, I broke the AI again.
I question that ProgTech AI.
Yeah, it's an unmanned AC who it was AI broke.
That's rando.
Wow. Okay. Sure. So we ran in-person tournaments all the way up through Last Raven.
Yeah.
And then 4 came out. And the death of tournaments thanks to split consoles and not being cross-compatible.
I can't emphasize enough how much this damaged things, And look, really, and where my animosity began before. This is the one thing I always hang on for is neck for the way it's separated amongst the community. And I was going to say, look, if you want to make AC multiple platform, okay. Just make it cross-platform. Make everything work together at least. Give some cohesion.
No, dude, that was the middle of the console wars. That was never going to happen.
I know it wasn't going to happen. It wasn't, but it was just such a shame and such just a strange turn of events. I mean, look, everybody, keep this in context.
You can hit me. I can't hit him.
Oh wow, he's way off. Since 1997, AC had been on one console, and naturally, over a long history, after that 10-year mark, with Last Raven, building up a community, building up people around AC. Yeah, if you want to play AC, it's on PlayStation, duh. And to just throw that out the window, I thought that was just really, 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 really questionable.
Woo!
Wow. Oh, okay.
Whoa!
Damn.
He just said denied.
I wasn't expecting that, I'm not gonna lie. I'm trying to press continue here and it's not letting me. Give me a second. There we go.
Nice potatoes. But
That was
yeah,
some fast blading. Oof. Ooh, he has Blade Wave. You see that?
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Lucky he missed. I probably would have been dead. He was midair when he did it. Woof. Plow, overweight, overback cannon. Like this is I'm technically plus overweight too, but I don't like abuse it to that level. Jeez Louise. So thought process. So we talked about a little bit earlier, but let me throw this out there.
Yeah.
Thoughts on plus being removed completely later on?
I think. Zealous, you want to go first?
I'm sitting here. Yeah, I was just waiting to see if you want to go. Thoughts on just having
because SL, for example, A3SL, he had it was
optional part.
Op-I was the plus and optional part form, or not. And then when he got to Nexus, it wasn't a thing anymore.
There's a special asterisk to that. It was interesting from his choice. Players couldn't use it.
Yep.
Unless you had some kind of crazy hack or something you were doing. But no. If you were an AI, all those AIs were going to cheat out the wazoo. Yeah, they were going to use everything against you.
Oh yeah.
And okay, hi.
They broke again. Oh wait, no, they're back.
Oh no, yeah. And that was part of the craziness about like Last Raven. Really throwing everything at the wall against you. And having plus as a. It's interesting, right? Op-I going from a thing you got as a penalty for losing missions in the old AC to being an optional part that you can just use in the AC3 era to being, brutal, to being just something that the AI used. Ultimately, as far as what the game was at that point,
yeah,
I thought it made sense. Just make it an AI thing. It's the mechanics just didn't gel with making it an optional part. Because look, here's the thing: there was no set of optional parts, no combination I could think of, especially in Nexus, Ninebreaker, or Last Raven, that could be the equivalent to Op-I. Couldn't. Tell me an optional part setup that could give you the kind of generator cap and Bat Cannon freedom alone is insane. Like there. Yeah. I mean, you can make an argument that greater energy weapon damage, greater energy weapon fire rate, less consumption. The famous trinity of energy weapon things to equip. Sure, there's that. But outside of that, the advantages to Op-I, including the cooling bonuses in an era where cooling was just absolutely massively changed from what it used to be. Night and day. I just. There wasn't a place for it anymore. The game outgrew it, and From showed it. I thought it was appropriate, made sense. So the last game where Op-I could somewhat belong and make a little sense was like Silent Line, because everyone had a similar degree of mobility. There was crazy verticality. FCSs were like the size of your living room window. You weren't going to lose track of anything. There were comparable elements, outside the stuff about bat cannons. But even then, velocities weren't as intense. The GNL had less of a velocity in like AC3 Classic than it did in like going on in Nexus and other games like that. AC SL and others felt like a very reactive game where you could still recover and react to, op-eye players and stuff like that. You'd feel it when you were fighting someone with like chain guns or like linears, right? Or who really knew what they were doing. The winner of our first Midwest event, Sharon the Blade, the winner of ACMM1, was a known op user. With he was a master blader though, but he's was it linear cannon? Linear gun?
I think it was linear cannon. Yeah.
Yeah, or like not Lick 10, not Lick 10,
no.
linear guns.
Yeah, linear guns.
But that was a prime example, and there were just mobility elements and things that you just couldn't do outside of having op-eye. So I think the game outgrew it. For AC1, it very much fit. Tolerable up through SL, but anything beyond SL, I don't think it had a place, and I think From made the right choice.
Death to
It's
plus.
Right? It's just interesting to me because now with that change, there are a lot of people who left. Who just refused. They said if I can't play plus or op, I'm done.
Yep.
I'm leaving because that was my definition of fun, and I quit. We had a lot of that. We in our own community in the Midwest, we had several people who were a big part of the tournament scene who just left. They're like, nope, I'm done altogether. So, to me, I don't know if I can see how fun it is and everything like that, but to me that was kind of a shame. Even the super villains, love him, hate him, whoever you loved or hated in the tournament scene, I thought it was a shame that a play element was that important that you'd want to drop all AC if it's gone.
Yep.
Hey, call it what you will. To me, that says to me that that's a problem, but hey.
Well, it is show people's reliance upon it, though. Like that.
Yeah.
That people are so reliant upon being super speedy, super lightweight, being able to fly in the air forever. It's they kind of took their ball and went home, but From kind of did themselves at that point, in my personal opinion. Like I don't blame those people. They've had that the entire time. All of a sudden it was gone. Like that's gonna be. Imagine playing plus and back cannons and a highly aerial play style like forever in AC, and all of a sudden
and it's just gone.
It's just gone. Like that would not be an easy thing to change at all.
No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't. And from their perspective, I can see that. I get it.
My only counter to that is that they introduced Nexus specifically. They introduced such a wider variety of arm weapons.
Mm-hmm.
Like right arm. I mean, think about it. Left arm almost had complete mirroring of the right arm.
Did.
And with dual analog stick and be able to double fire and everything else like that, like the need for back cannons wasn't really necessary at that point. The only complaint they'd have, but you played Nexus Nothing with me. People have built infinite aerial builds.
Oh yeah.
People who basically stay in the air forever. They could do that, and dude, with linear rifles being a thing that were really good.
Yep.
There were ways to make your aerial big weapon thing work in Nexus and later on versions. So I think those people who just like pre-quit, decided we're done, and just kind of left it, I think if they would have given more of a chance, I think they could have found something that would have worked for them. I really do.
I agree. There's a chance that I see if you enjoyed everything about op-eye. But if they were just specific elements you enjoyed, there was pretty much guaranteed there's something you could design to help you get into that feel. So
I would say I pretty much agree with what you're saying, Zealous. Basically, it kind of felt like it wasn't really needed anymore. I mean, honestly, my personal thought is the only thing they probably should have kept is like being able to use back weapons while moving, but like everything else wasn't really needed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the reason why people could do it before too was the overweight restriction thing, which was gone.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have overweight restriction again, a lot of back cannons you had to be careful because you couldn't have the weight.
Yeah.
So you were designing around that in the first place. And look at AC4. AC4, you could use back cannons in the air. It didn't matter anymore at that point.
everyone could.
You think that was From's attempt to bring back that same group again, or what do you think?
I think it's more like trying to chase a general concept where it's like you have that same sort of openness, I guess, if you want to call it that way, of what you can do, you know. But I think the problem with, you know, in fairness, it makes sense in sort of design of that particular game, but like Armored Core is very much about what you can't do, you know, as it is what you can do.
Right.
You know, and if you can do pretty much anything, I mean, like, you're basically just, well, like the arena that you see, you know, what's most of the builds?
Yeah.
Lightweights,
Yep.
using, you know, basically that sort of thing. You basically end up with, and this is a bit more of an exaggeration, but like a bunch of super lightweights, but the Karasawa and like a Moonlight, you know?
I think one important distinction that they tried to make coming out of AC2 was making overweight just something that as a player you couldn't really do anymore, and just putting plus on its own as on its own virtues, and just trying to make that shine as an optional part. Because, you know, before, like, the two, it was kind of hard to divorce them, right? You know, plus overweight were like peanut butter jelly. Wow, maybe you did one or the other, but I mean, together they were just such a powerhouse. But I think that kind of slow phase down is something from, I want to say they had this in mind all along, to sort of slowly scale down from this play style.
Yep, agreed.
First they took away overweight and just gave that to the AIs, and then that should have been the telltale sign. Next was going to be op-I/plus. That now that's gone, to give that to the AIs too.
So that leaves another question with the evolution change as far as like weapon and system designs goes. What do you think the introduction of Nexus, where you essentially introduced mirrored arm weapons, where there was no longer like, you know, just blades on the left, there was just, you know, just howitzers on the left, there was just shields on the left, there was just these, whereas you got there like double sniper, double energy rifle, double linear rifle, double whatever.
I would say I understand why they did it, because if you think about logically, it doesn't make sense why you can't have, you know, two weapons on different arms instead of just like a shield or a blade, you know. But I don't really feel like it was needed, because, and maybe this is a bit more my perspective from like the 5th gen era, but like I feel like you're introducing a lot of situations where people are gonna go for more bulk damage stuff, you know, versus like, and Zealous and Claire, feel free to correct me, because I know you guys have a bit more experience from the tournament perspective, but like in general, I feel like you're almost going to take a little bit more out of the tactical aspect of, you know, how you're supposed to play Armored Core, because you now have a bit more incentive to kind of throw, let's say, 2 machine guns on and sort of just rush down your opponent a lot. And again, that's sort of an exaggerated example.
Sure. But on the whole, are you saying that as a as like a bit of a point of a loss of a loss of tactical play overall, or not? Yeah. Okay. It's, to me, I always took it as the opposite. I was glad to see it, because I never liked this idea of, oh, left arm being just your offhand. That's just for the blade, or that's just for the specialty shield that barely ever gets any use. So that's just for this thing. You know, it took away the uniqueness of what your right arm choice was, because that was always a big thing. You know, your right arm being your primary gun, primary function. But yeah, sure, there was more incentive now to do something like dual builds. In a way, it became a little problematic in some ways. Like, let's say Last Raven dual Rock 4. That pulse gun was really insane, especially when you really tuned it up, you know, with like the option parts and stuff. Of course, dual Karasawa was just awesome. That was mega stylish. But yeah,
super draining, there was super heavy, not super very draining, viable.
Yeah. There was way more incentive to create rushdown builds, and rush down with your favorite 2 guns and go for it. But you know what? By that point, I was just kind of like, you know, strap up and go for it. That sounds fun. I sort of embraced it and welcomed it because I was like, you know what? If we're heading towards real dual gun setups, what was the other popular one during Ninebreaker? Dual M2, M2 Chang, a dual M2 with E2
Dual worm.
core, a dual worm snipers.
Dual worm was big in
for,
Ninebreaker.
Yeah, Ninebreaker and Nexus, that was big. You know, and it's funny. I think the whole dual trend continued well into you know, AC4 and 4 vanilla. I mean, Claire, you remember how many dual rifle builds you saw?
Never ending.
They were everywhere.
It never stopped.
I mean, I think it created a bit of a problem in the whole idea of like quote unquote meta, right? It's like, oh, well, there's this godly handgun to rifle. Just give me another one. All right, let's go. You know?
Yeah,
okay.
the infinite stun combos and Ninebreaker with dual pistol.
Yeah. You know, stuff like that. So there is some virtue in what Ching's saying, like that. There's a quote unquote loss, and like now there's a zoom in. But I think that's less of a design flaw and more of like a player preference. Naturally, anytime you have shifts like that, the preference or the meta is going to shift what people feel is the strongest, and it's just a matter of time until that either becomes rooted or that becomes beat out by something else.
Well, here's a lightweight biped.
Look at that emblem too.
Yeah, I was gonna say this emblem is sick.
It's amazing. Founder of the Military Tactics Research Organization, RNG is RNG. He wields some very impressive
Yeah,
firepower.
he does. He has double plasma cannons with dual ammo extensions.
Serious biz.
This guy's gonna hurt. All right. Last one of these. Now here's the secret with that too. You know what? It was a wish list thing that I never got. You all love weapon arms, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some of the weapon arm items are really good on their own. What I wish you could have done is I wish I could have had a weapon arm on one arm and a regular arm on the other so I could do something else. I always wish I could split arms.
That would be really sick.
I mean, yeah, I think
Now,
it
in
would
that
look.
scenario, would you be able to use both arms at the same time, or would you only be able to use one or the other?
I think given the meta, the metric of the game, and the mechanics, I think both at the same time wouldn't matter.
Interesting.
By the way, if you're thinking for how this would work, anybody here who's played if you played Nier Automata, think of the flight units from Nier. They have like a long range like cannon, but that arm also changes into like close range artillery. It's not it's not very sturdy, right? And that's like how weapon arms should be. That's the point. They don't have much armor because they're what? Weapon arms, of course. But, you know, the whole deal is to like tool up at the expense of AP and defense. So if you kind of repeated that idea in AC, I mean, I know at the risk of people saying, "Oh my God, that's OP because you have a weapon arm and you use something else." No, I think it can be pretty awesome.
Yep.
That could create some real sick combos. Of course, you'd sacrifice a lot of defense, but.
Well, that's the trade-off, though. That's the point.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really foresee many balance issues with that. Is my point.
Mm-hmm.
Special part obtained.
Nice.
What part is that?
But Chang, I think it's a necessary evil, quote unquote, because I have a hard time seeing how you grow options for arm weapons without doing that. The kind of expansion Cleric just mentioned, I think, could be also a really good first step to opening that up even more. I think if we were still in an era where, well, only Carousel on your right arm, only linear gun in your right arm, and just only blade over here, there's only so much you can do with that before it starts to get kind of stale.
You know what that part was? Was that an optional part?
Not sure.
Not sure. Hmm.
Yep, auto. Yep. New SPABS. What's that do?
Hmm.
Okay, I gotta Google this now. So actually, no, let me set the sound for you guys. So I want to Google that for me real quick. I'm very curious.
What? This part?
Yeah, what it does.
It says here reduces the recoil from shell hits.
Oh.
There you go.
Interesting. Alright, well, I'm going to save real quick here. Because we're at the 2-hour mark now. And we have a lot more arena to go.
Oh yeah.
Because we have the From Software. Which, by the way, how do I unlock this?
I think you have to beat all the other ones.
Alright, so the other ones are done. So From Software employees, we have 10 here. And after you do that, we'll do some more. I might do some double checking to make sure I'm not missing any other unlock requirements. If I am, I'll do the unlock requirements ahead of time so you have them ready. But yeah, I guess we have to wait till part 3. Anyways, thank you guys. Appreciate you joining me. Shooting the breeze, talking about Armored Core. It's a lot of fun.
As always.
Thank you all for who watched the video. Part 3 will be worked on eventually. It'll probably be another couple months we get the chance to really play it, or if we get earlier time, so it's great. Then once we're done doing all the recording and all these videos, we'll start working on retrospective part 3.
Love it. Love it.
And then we can start playing AC2. Which I'm very much looking forward to.
No, I can't wait. Can't wait. So, hey, everybody, again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Would love to hear your thoughts, questions, concerns, anything. Hey, look, all that good stuff in the comments. Love talking to fellow gearheads out there. You guys all take care. Take care of yourselves.
And let's not
Around,
check.
guys. Oh, just gotta say, see you around.
Yep, everybody, see ya. Cleric signing off. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate your guys' time. See ya.
Peace out.